Republican State Representatives Matt Shaheen and Jeff Leach of Collin County. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
You bet.
Thanks, Jack.
So first, let me get your reaction to the fact that Texas House Speaker Dade Phelan has survived a brutal GOP runoff. And Representative Leach, you were actually down there on election night with the speaker. And I know, Representative Shaheen, you were down there campaigning for him during the last month or so. And so I'm wondering, both of you, what did you make of this?
Well, look, Dade and all of us have just gone through, as you said, a brutal primary season. I'm very grateful to have won re-election here in Collin County. I know Representative Shaheen is as well. As for Speaker Phelan, he's done a tremendous job serving his district, House District 21 in Southeast Texas, for a long time. His voters sent him back to continue that work. And as Speaker of the House, he's done a great job providing what I believe are the two most conservative, or leading the two most conservative legislative sessions in the history of our state, certainly in recent memory. And so I'm glad to have the primaries behind us. We Republicans now have to get to unite and come together and look towards November and beating the Democrats in advance of next session.
Representative Shaheen.
Look, we had a lot of great wins to run our re-election campaigns on. I mean, we've deployed close to $7 billion on the border, thousands of DPS troopers. We're protecting children from being sexualized, largest tax cut in history. So we had a lot of great things to run on. And as Representative Leach said, we just brought that message to our voters, won re-election with really significant wins. And then, Speaker Phelan, even though he's a statewide official, he still runs for re-election in his district. And nobody knows Speaker Phelan better than the people of his district. And he won because of the great wins that we've had during the last two sessions that he's been speaker.
And, he was going up against the lieutenant governor, against the attorney general, against former President Trump. That's a lot to go up against in a very conservative Texas. And so was the fact that, he is a speaker, people saw that, hey, wait a minute, before we kick the speaker out, maybe we need to take stock of this. How much of it do you think that played in the voters' decision? And I get that this was still very close. The speaker won by only 366 votes. Representative Shaheen, why don't you take that?
I mean, look, anytime you have a president of the United States work against you, statewide officials, the lieutenant governor. But look, the speaker was able to rely back on his record. It's a great conservative record. I mean, the wins that we've had underneath, Representative Leach has passed one of the strongest religious freedom bills in the nation. I've worked on protecting kids from being sexually exposed to just pornographic materials and the like. So all of us had some really good, strong wins. And of course, having President Trump, having Lieutenant Governor in the mix there made his race tighter. But at the end of the day, he's just a well-known figure in his district, and he prevailed. And we're looking forward to him being speaker next session.
Representative Leach.
Well, like all of us, after every legislative session, we get to come back home and spend time with voters. And if we decide to seek re-election, be held accountable by our voters. And just like Representative Shaheen and I and every single state rep, Speaker Phelan, Representative Phelan gets to go back home every 2 years. And, he, like us, was very honest with the voters. There's a lot of deception and deceit, a lot of dishonesty, a lot of dishonest attacks against us and against him, not only as state representative, but as the leader of our chamber. And what I did and what he did was just be honest with the voters, tell the truth about what we did, all of the conservative victories that we've had under his leadership. But for his leadership of the Texas House, we would not have essentially banned abortion. We would not have passed constitutional carry. We would not have sent nearly $7 billion to secure the border. We wouldn't have passed the nation's strongest COVID vaccine mandate ban. All of these things happened under his leadership. He was honest about that with his voters, and I'm glad that his voters agreed and sent him back to serve them in another 2 years in their Texas House.
And on Tuesday night, the speaker expressed confidence that he is going to remain as speaker in January. Do you agree with that, and do you support him? Representative Leach.
I strongly support Speaker Phelan as he seeks re-election to lead our chamber for a third term. Look, there will be conversations about the leadership of our chamber next session. Speaker Phelan and I know Representative Shaheen and I are rightfully laser focused on November. We have serious races up and down the ballot in November, working to get President Trump elected, protecting Ted Cruz, electing Republicans up and down the ballot, including ourselves. And so we're focused on November. There need to be conversations about some potential changes that need to take place in the Texas House chamber. What we've done right and building on those, maybe some things that need to be changed, some things that have gone wrong and fixing those problems. And to Speaker Phelan's credit, he's going to spend a lot of time listening to members, spending time with members. And I believe he's going to resoundingly win a majority of the Republican caucus vote and then be reelected Speaker of the Texas House in January.
Representative Shaheen.
Yeah, again, I go back to the victories that we've had under Speaker Phelan's stewardship. We've just had some phenomenal conservative sessions underneath him. I have a high level of confidence he will be reelected. But look, Representative Leach is correct. Our focus right now is November. Look, you can't help but see that the Democrat focus is getting more and more extreme, pursuing children, trying to sexualize children, and the like. And look, we've had to pass some really significant legislation to protect children. We had to ban DEI out of our colleges. We've seen throughout our college campuses, really here in Texas and across the nation, some of the support that's going on against Israel and for terrorist organizations. And so, look, it's really important. If we want Texas to continue to prosper, we need Republican leadership. It is very easy to see that if you look across the nation, you look at how blue states are doing versus red states. By far, the red states are more prosperous. There's more opportunity. So we're going to have a fight on our hand. The Democrats are probably going to target anywhere from 7 to 9 Texas House seats, and we need to come together and defend those. Over in the Senate, there's some vulnerabilities as well. And look, we got to make sure that Trump gets the support that he needs out of Texas. And of course, we've got to make sure that Ted Cruz gets reelected to be our U.S. Senator.
And I want to ask you both about what Attorney General Ken Paxton said in a statement released late Tuesday night. He said, quote, "To those considering supporting Dade Phelan as Speaker in 2025, ask your 15 colleagues who lost re-election how they feel about their decision now. You will not return if you vote for Dade Phelan again." Is that a threat, Representative?
Yeah, look, to be honest with you, Ken Paxton, he's pretty irrelevant in these races. If you look at who he backed, they didn't do very well. In fact, if anything, his endorsement probably hurt candidates out there. The big victor here was school choice and Governor Abbott. If he got behind an individual, he got behind me and Representative Leach. He literally had hundreds and hundreds of people come to his events here in Collin County. There's a lot of excitement around the governor, but the voters spoke loud and clear. They want school choice, and the dynamics of the House are such where now we'll be able to pass school choice. But Ken Paxton is pretty much an irrelevant player when it comes to these elections. Quite frankly, he's probably embarrassed on how poorly he did. On the other hand, Governor Abbott is the big winner from the March primary and then these runoffs.
And so it doesn't seem like you're too concerned by his comment.
No, not at all. I mean, look, he's bitter. He's playing games. I don't think a lot of people take him seriously. Look, there's a small group, 5-6% of the Republican base that follow his lead and the like. But look, I mean, I knocked on over 1,000 doors. Impeachment didn't even come up. Again, it's the border. It's the economy. Quite frankly, people in my district don't know who Dade Phelan is. So, Ken Paxton, he can make his little threats if he wants, but he's irrelevant as far as the primary process. He just didn't come out looking very well at all.
Representative Leach, what did you make of the Attorney General's statement? Are you concerned by it?
No, I'm not concerned by it. I don't regret voting to impeach General Paxton, and I won't regret voting for Speaker Phelan when he runs for re-election to Speaker of the Texas House. I'm not losing any sleep over General Paxton, what he says and how he threatens us. It's very reminiscent, actually, as we approach the impeachment vote in the Texas House when General Paxton was making calls to several House members threatening them then. Fortunately, enough House members, a supermajority of Republicans, did the right thing. They looked at the evidence. They commended articles of impeachment to the Texas Senate. And by the way, the Texas senators agreed as well that there was sufficient evidence to merit and to warrant a trial, something that's lost on a lot of people these days. But that is behind us. And looking forward, General Paxton can spend all the time he wants and all the tweets he wants and all the energy he wants threatening Republican House members. But my focus is on, and I would encourage his focus to be on, helping us beat Democrats up and down the ballot in November, uniting the Texas House and the Senate to provide a strong legislative conservative session, next legislative session, and working with us instead of against Republicans. Based on his track record, I don't see that happening anytime soon. So he's irrelevant to me. I'm focused on winning in November and making sure we get back to work next January in the Texas House to give Republican primary voters and all Texans the kind of legislative session they deserve.
Did he threaten either of you
He
early on?
he called me, and I didn't bother to pick up because I'd already heard that he had threatened some other members. I had spoken to some other House members that did answer his call. They were threatened. That's true.
And Representative Leach?
Yeah, he knew not to waste time to try to threaten me. I will say that, you know, it's the fact is I've invited General Paxton privately and publicly to meet with me, to meet with members of the Judiciary Committee several times in the Texas House. Over going on 3 sessions now, he has refused to appear a single time, which is unheard of in a statewide elected official to just refuse to come before and talk to the legislature about good things, much less anything else. And so he just continues to thumb his nose at the Texas legislature. He won't come see us in the Texas House, and now he presumes and assumes to threaten Texas House members. I'm not going to put up with it. I believe the vast majority of Texas House Republicans are not going to put up with it. We're focused on the real issues that matter to our constituents and delivering on their behalf.
I wanted to ask you because there were a number of House Republican incumbents from our area, from North Texas, who lost. I count 8 with regards to Representative Holland, Representative Burns, Frazier, Stuckey, Click, and then even during the March 5th primary, Timish, Smith, and Rogers. That's 8 right there. And in some cases, some of them did support school choice. Some of them did not. And so I'm wondering, is the House going to be more conservative? Some even said more MAGA than we've seen before?
Well, I think you'll have a Texas House that's going to pass school choice. The House was already conservative. You can argue it's going to be a little bit more conservative. Again, look at, I mean, we're winning the culture wars in the state of Texas just by the past legislation that's gone to the governor's desk and had been signed. But yeah, I think the House is probably going to be a little bit more conservative. But, you know, each of these races, they're their own animal, if you will. But if you look across all the primary elections, whether they were decided in March or this runoff, I mean, it's not even close. By far, really, the issue at hand was school choice, and it was Governor Abbott.
Representative Leach?
Yeah, look, we lost some really, really good House members that, frankly, were just lied about and way outspent in their own districts. My classmate, Chairwoman Click, Chairman Reggie Smith, my good friends from Collin County, Representative Justin Holland. You mentioned Dwayne Burns, and there's others.
Frazier. Yep.
Yeah, you know, they just faced an onslaught of lies and deception and couldn't overcome that. I will tell you that there are some Texas House members, a handful of Texas House members out there that are frankly deceiving their voters. They're deceiving themselves. They're certainly deceiving Republican primary voters into what has actually transpired over the last 2 sessions. We have delivered the most conservative legislative sessions in the history of the state of Texas, certainly in modern history. Like I said earlier, essentially banning abortion, passing constitutional carry, ending gender modification, passing the nation's strongest COVID vaccine mandate ban. This past session was the first public record vote that we've had in a long, long time on school choice. And although we didn't have the votes to pass it, I believe that we will have the votes to finally pass a big, bold, a meaningful school choice bill next session. But it's important for us to tell the truth to our voters, to own what's gone wrong and to try to fix it, but also to give credit where credit is due and to be honest with our voters about what we've achieved. We've achieved a lot. There's a lot more to do. And Republicans, conservative Republicans, are going to continue to lead the way under Speaker Phelan's leadership in the House next session.
And given that, given how both of you feel that Speaker Phelan will remain Speaker in the next session, are you expecting a more contentious House session? Because there are a number of Republican lawmakers in the House who have called on Republicans to support what's called the contract with Texas, in which they want to limit the Speaker to 2 terms. They want to limit or remove his or her, the Speaker's ability to provide campaign contributions to the House members that he or she supports, no Democratic committee chairs, that kind of thing. And so I'm wondering, does this at all concern you?
Well, I think we should debate those items. So, for example, one of those items would actually expand government. It makes it easier to pass legislation. And the conservative Republicans, I know they want it to be hard to pass legislation, not grow government. So I have some issues with that. There's some items in there about the Speaker not helping out Republicans in their election. So really, we're not going to help our fellow Republicans in November. The Speaker can help our fellow Republicans in November. So I don't think that's well thought out. There's some items there that, you know, I could get on board with, but the document as a whole, it's got some serious flaws in it. I just don't think it was well thought out. But yeah, let's debate it. Let's have that discussion. As far as does the House get more contentious? The House is always contentious. The House is really a beautiful picture of debate that occurs really across the nation. It's really a chamber of 150 people that are representing their districts. And look, you have the front mic where you lay out your legislation. You have the back mic where any of the other 140 members can come and ask you any question that you want. It's a debating chamber. And so, yeah, look, the process gets ugly. Will it be a little bit more ugly? Possibly. That's really up to each individual legislator. I'm going to tell you that I'm going to do the best that I can to preserve conservative values and advance conservative legislation and represent my district.
Representative Leach.
Yeah, look, the job of the Speaker of the Texas House and the primary purpose of the rules of the House, it's very simple. It's to ensure that the voices of the people of Texas are heard loud and clear on the floor of the Texas House, period. That's it. It's to allow all 150 members, to empower all 150 members to vigorously and aggressively represent their districts. My contract is with my voters. I've made certain commitments to my voters and have signed a contract with them and them alone to fight for my values, to lower government or to limit government, to lower taxes, to fight for life, to protect our fundamental freedoms and liberties. Those are the things that I've promised my voters. To me, those are the only promises that matter. That's why I've been resoundingly reelected, now going on 7 times by Republican primary voters. Representative Shaheen is the same way. We talk to our voters, we tell them the truth, we tell them what we stand for, and we ask for them to support us. That's the contract that matters. As for the rules and the leadership and all that stuff that's later to come as we prepare for next legislative session, we'll have a deliberation and a debate about those things. But right now, I'm focused on my constituents winning re-election in November and making sure their voices are heard in their Texas House next legislative session.
And last question, very briefly. Are you concerned at all that there's going to be continuing pressure from the Texas GOP onto House Republicans as to bills that they want passed? And Representative Leach, we'll start with you.
Well, listen, I listened loud and clear to my Republican primary voters who just resoundingly reelected me with nearly 66% of the vote in my Republican primary. They knew full well what I've stood for, full well what I've delivered on their behalf. The bills I voted for, the ones I voted against, the bills that I've authored and fought for and passed. And so I sure as heck listen to and care what my Republican primary voters have to say. But I've never really cared what Abraham George has to say, and I don't plan to start now.
Representative Shaheen.
Yeah, look, it's just a fact. I'm one of the most conservative members in the Texas legislature. I'm proud of that. That's who I am. That's how I run for re-election. That's how I win. So I'm going to represent the 200,000 citizens that are in my district. My hope is that at some point, the Texas GOP stops attacking Republicans, because that's really has been the focus. That's been a huge disappointment. The job of the Texas GOP is to help Republicans get elected. And quite frankly, the history has showed us all they do is attack Republicans. So again, I'm going to be focused on the people that I represent. Everybody knows where I stand, where my faith is in the Lord Jesus Christ and my conservative values and those principles. And that's my foundation, and I'm not budging from it. And that's what's gotten me reelected. And I think that's what helps me to represent the 200,000 constituents that are in my district.
Representatives Matt Shaheen and Jeff Leach from Collin County. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your time.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you,
me.
Jack.